I don't know. No, I wanted to kind of start by, I kind of liked the way Mike spoke to us a few weeks ago about how he got started, you know, where he came from and how he met this lovely Val and all that stuff. Well, similarly, I always thought, okay, where do we start to get where we are now? And it's like, obviously, our upbringing and where we came from originally, it kind of makes us who we are. And even though I moved to Chicago area in Illinois, Chicago, and when I was about 10. But before then, I'm a Southern girl. You know, I was born in South Carolina, raised in both South Carolina and North Carolina because I came from a very, very poor family, and it really forms you and a lot of your attitudes. My father moved us around a lot, so it was really important for my mom when we were little, I mean before school and all this, to really enforce and to encourage education because she wasn't able to do that for herself, and because her father moved her around, because in the South, I mean, my parents picked cotton like the best of them, and they worked in cotton mills and so forth. But my father's older brother, you know, when things were tough at the mills in small towns, it was really hard to grow up in very poor communities. And so he moved the family to Chicago, and I was old enough to remember that trip up, and my mother moved I have two younger sisters, moved us all up with whatever she could pack in suitcases. That's how we moved, on a Greyhound bus to Chicago. So I have really strong memories of that because I was the oldest. But I do have to give credit to my parents for really, you know, doing what they had to do to really provide for their families and to move us into communities with good schools and good homes, and to really make that a priority in their life. So I think that's where I think a lot of my values about family and good neighborhoods and good schools was formed. When I was a teenager in high school, you know, all my friends who had more than me, you know, some of them had part-time jobs and stuff. My mother absolutely would not let me have a job. She says, your job is, you know, in school and coming home and doing your homework, and once in a while on the weekends she'd let me babysit, so if I wanted a few extra bucks. But no, there was no part-time jobs for us in our household. We needed to focus on what we were, you know, what would make us more successful in life. And I appreciate that because I was able to get 2 scholastic scholarships, so it really paid off. And I think at the same time I did a lot of volunteering in high school. I joined various clubs, and I was very much a social person. I wasn't in a clique. I was kind of like friends with the band and friend with the cheerleaders, and I was in the choir. I mean, that was really nerdy too, but I loved to sing and dance, so it was, I kind of laugh because I was the lead of my junior prom skit. It was so exciting. It was the Eastern version of West Side Story. It was pretty cool. Got to wear a kimono and everything, so it was kind of fun. But I don't know, my mother always said that she thought I had an old soul. So I did marry an older man. He was 10 years older than me. I met him when I was in college. He was only 14 years younger than my own father, so they were buddies too. But we've been married well over 40 years because my son's 42, my daughter's 39, and we have, as Jim said, I have 3 grandchildren now who are the loves of my life. But real estate is another love in my life. And what we know about real estate and what we know about home ownership is it does build communities, it builds families, it builds stability, it builds education. So it's been a career that I've very much enjoyed and prided myself in being good at what I do. I joined the Realtor associations and became very involved in various associations. I currently chair committees at the California Association level, mostly in governmental affairs, which is kind of a passion for me too. I know I see Jim around a lot of the things that we attend locally with legislators and the city council, so I stay involved in local politics. But what I'm going to talk about real estate today are the economics that we realtors follow that really impact our real estate community and what our price is and what the market is like. And people are always interested in that. So starting with the main one, are interest rates. Everybody needs to be counseled, and they always ask questions about interest rates. So right now, the interest rates are very stable. Even though the feds did make one movement in the rates, it really hasn't affected real estate rates too much, but that was in December. And we also have to be aware of the world economics and how that affects the funds that we have here in the United States. And I'm sure Rod can attest to that too. It affects a lot of different types of investments, but it also, especially it does affect real estate. So obviously we realtors, we are hopeful to keep up the low rates. It really helps. But with that being said, when you have low rates, it also means higher prices for, people can, it seems to think that the sellers then, the rates, the costs of the homes go up too. So when there's an adjustment in interest rate, there's often an adjustment in sales prices as well. And we also look at the Dow average because that affects real estate as well. So obviously, it forces, when the Dow is not good or if it's not stable, people do look at other types of investments that they want to get into. And which also brings us to another big issue, which is number 8 on our top 10 list, is rent versus buying. Right now, rents in Orange County are extremely high. And with rates where they are, we do a lot of analysis for our clients so that they can get the benefit of knowing, well, is it better to rent or to buy over long term? So there's a lot of charts and other, when I do a buyer consultation, I do like to sit down and we talk about what, the after-tax dollars and so forth, and before-tax dollars. And obviously I don't give accounting advice, but we look at their after-tax dollars, and that sometimes a mortgage is really fits into that budget. So. And then of course, here we get to the home prices. Everybody's always asking about, are we in a bubble, or are we approaching a bubble again? And at the peak of 2007, we're not actually even quite back there yet, which is surprising because if you have to remember back 9 years ago at some of the pricing, and right now, I was going to say that the median home price here in January of this year was still 21% below where we were before, and that just amazes me too. But the prices were really, really high. So what fueled that was, of course, if anyone has seen the movie The Big Short, I don't know if anyone saw that, yeah. But it was very overwhelming for me to even see that, because I didn't put people in those kind of loans unless I actually got in one of those loans myself, but I understood it. But most people don't understand it, and I didn't get into one of the loans that were like, only stayed at 1.9% for like 30 days, or 90 days. I mean, I was aware that right now my loan is still doing well, the one I had, which was at first an interest-only loan. But people have to understand what they're getting into. So affordability and home prices right now are really a big issue that we're also discussing at the California state level. When it comes to real estate, it's a real important factor that we're really having to deal with, because the lack of home ownership in a state really does change the character of your whole entire community. So right now, the home prices, as of January of this year, the median price in California is $468,330, which is 8% over the last year. And then in Orange County, the median price is $704,900. So, and the predictions on average for 2016 is that they're about a 1 to 4% growth in home prices again. And factoring in what I just said about home pricing is how it affects U.S. home ownership rate. The home ownership rate currently stands at 63.8%, which is the lowest since 1994. And so what we see when we go and talk to legislators at both the state and national about real estate is we want them to understand how that impacts our state and our country, because if you think about what it was when I was growing up or when you were growing up or now when our kids are growing up, they don't have the same feeling. My parents never owned a home in their life, and now I own 3. I used to own 4. So I'm just saying, that is just amazing to me that we look back on that, and I was the first one of my generation to go to college. So we know that forming communities, part of that is having a home that you're proud of, that you can call your own, whether that's a condo, it's just something that you can pride yourself that you've earned. So another thing that we counsel people about how it affects real estate, of course, is the foreign investment. We have had a great many of foreign money coming into our United States that is people who are investing in the United States. So that's a good thing, and sometimes it's bad. Right now, the Chinese who have taken over, believe it or not, I don't know if you realize who the other people who are buying the most property in the United States were the Canadians, believe it or not. So now the Chinese...
Can't trust them.
You can't trust those Canadians. But foreign investment is still an important part of our continued strength in the real estate market, because the thing is that the U.S. Treasury is being very cautious about and watching the money that's coming in, because they're really concerned about whether a lot of the money coming in and buying in cash, and it started mostly in the Florida market, is about money laundering. So they're really watching that impact of the foreign investments into the United States. Again, the factor of home affordability is really impacting us, because the percentage of home buyers who could afford to purchase a median priced existing home as of the third quarter was 29%, according to the California Association of Realtors. So it's really important that we talk to our local legislators, state legislators, national legislators, to start having some home affordability programs, and that it is important for our county and our businesses too. We want, it affects how we as business owners, whether you're a printer or an accountant or a contractor or an insurance person or a dentist or anyone here, a plumber. If people don't have jobs, they can't afford to hire you either. So according to all the statistics, we're not at the peak yet, and the housing inventories, low inventory right now is impacting the pricing. So we need to get a little more balance there, because if we get a little more inventory, then there's a little bit more compatibility between how many buyers and sellers can afford to sell and buy and move up. See, some of the sellers don't want to put their house on the market because they can't afford to buy the next level. So we're watching the real estate, is there a bubble? We're always being asked that question about whether we're going to hit another bubble. Possibly, but I think we're below that peak where we were in 2007. We're not doing the kind of loans that they did that impacted that at one time. So hopefully we'll keep pace and the values will keep going, and we can get our young people to consider buying instead of renting. And so I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. Thank you.